Good morning. Sorry for the delay. Welcome to Introduction to Biblical Hebrew. This is a review of lesson 17, but not of the whole lesson, only for the part of the lesson that deals with how to form feminine singular nouns and feminine singular adjectives. This review of part of lesson 17, which I have labeled part 1, is in preparation for test number 2, which is planned, God permitting, to be given to you next week, Thursday, June 13. And on Friday, June 14, I will be revising the second part of lesson 17. And whenever you come back, because I hear you have to go to Portland for some special lectures between June 17 and June 20. But when you do come back, then you should be ready for your test on the second part of lesson 17, which deals with the relationships between adjectives and nouns. But all you need to worry about, well, not worry, all you need to focus on is the first part of lesson 17, dealing with how to form feminine singular nouns and feminine singular adjectives. We're going to go to God in prayer. Brother Ricketts, would you lead us in prayer, please? Yeah.
This aspect where we're able to study more on the Hebrew language, and portion of what we're able to learn, we'll apply it to the book of Scripture as we go there and share it on it. Pray at this time for teacher and teacher, we learn something. Let us do it and do it.
Amen. The general objectives of this review are: 1, to examine masculine singular and feminine singular nouns. 2, to examine masculine singular and feminine singular nouns, adjectives, sorry. Specific objectives: number 1, at the end of this lesson, the students will have identified how to form feminine singular nouns. 2, at the end of this lesson, the students will have identified how to form feminine singular adjectives. This is all the review is about. I could have chosen to given you a test over all of lesson 17 at one time. But as I was thinking about it, I realized that it is less difficult to master the Hebrew when I give you a smaller section to study than a big section. So that is what I have chosen to do for test number 2. Test number 3, which is in the final week of June, is going to be over lesson number 17 also, but it is going to be over the second part of lesson 17. Now, everything that I have here on the screen is important for you to remember for your exam. All those Hebrew words that you see there, have them in your mind. That if I ask you to write some examples of the masculine singular noun to show that they don't have one special ending, but each one of them has its own ending, be able even to remember 2 of the 4 examples I have on the screen. Now at the heading, at the top of the screen, it says masculine singular nouns do not have one special ending, but each one has their own unique ending. There is no special ending for masculine nouns. Notice this, class. Notice how each of these nouns end. Sus ends in same. Sus means horse. Ish ends in shin. Ish means man. Navi means prophet. Navi ends in aleph. Melech means king. And Melech ends in kaf. So Samek, Shin, Aleph, and Kaf. These are different endings. Each noun has a different ending. All the nouns do not have the same ending. So masculine singular nouns do not have one special ending, but each one has their own unique ending. Know this. Know this fact and be able to give 2 examples of this fact. So if you get a question such as, do masculine singular nouns have the same ending? You would write, no. Each of them has their own unique or different ending. Another question you might get, give 2 examples of 2 different endings for the masculine singular noun. Well, remember these. Sus, Ish, Navi, Melech. Know them well enough that you're able to write it on the paper. But Sus means horse. It has a different ending from, let us say, Ish, which ends in Shin. Be able to know it well enough that you can write the Hebrew. It's a while that I have not given you any Hebrew to write. Okay, so know it well enough, okay? You're being prepared for the test. This will specifically prepare you for the test. Any question on this? Just want to emphasize there are 2 facts that are taught on this screen. Fact number 1 is masculine singular nouns, and these are masculine singular nouns, do not have one special ending, but each one has their own unique ending. So you tell me that. But I would also like you to give me at least 2 examples of what you mean. Sus, Ish, or Navi, Melech, or Sus and Melech. Any 2 that you would like to put together to illustrate how masculine singular nouns have their own ending, not one and the same ending for each of them. Any questions on this? Anything that you don't understand? Feel free to speak, because I want to help you learn this language. So if you have a problem, yes, who is saying that?
The word Navi, as it is ending after the verb, and then you have the root. But we don't see the pronunciation for root. So for me, I think Navi.
Oh, this is one vowel, the yod and the dot under the bet is our long kiri, which is the long I sound, E as in machine, Machine, machine. It is pronounced E. So you have na, b, e, and this has no sound. So even though you will write the aleph, it doesn't contribute to the sound of the word. So navi is the pronunciation. Navi. So the yod is not separate from the dot here. It is one. The yod and the dot under the bet is one vowel. It is the long vowel kiri. The short vowel kiri is just a dot under a letter. But the long kiri is made up of a yod and of a dot. So that is an I. E. I, long I sound like machine.
But it's
Navi. If there was a dot in bet, then it would be a B sound. Book. But according to what we have learned, if there is a vowel before dagesh lene, the dagesh lene is not going to stay there. It's going to go away. So we have a navi, navi, N-A-V-I, navi, meaning prophet in English. Any other question, Shafis? Professor of Hebrew, what do you have to ask? Oh, you don't have any question right now. Any other question? All right, let us move on to the next one. Feminine singular nouns have one special ending, which is added at the end of masculine singular nouns. Here are some examples. The feminine singular noun is recognized by the accented Thomas A ending. For example, Sus means horse, masculine. But you add Thomas A and A at the end of Sus to give you the word Susa. And Susa means mare, and mare, a word that we hardly use anymore in the English language, is a female horse. Female horse. Okay, well, is that in popular use in Portland? Really? Different parts of the country have their own vocabulary. When my daughter was doing some research in Clarendon, he learned a word for the first time, all of us, the entire family. Different farmers use the word kasha to refer to plants that have prickles or thorns on them. I thought I would hear the Creole maca, because I hear in Kingston that they call plants that have thorns or prickles maca. But in Clarendon, they have a common word for what is otherwise called maca. They say kasha. And everybody understands what is meant by kasha. Did you know about kasha? So in Jamaica, we have different words that are used. Yeah. Briars. Right. So that's an English. That's an English word. Yeah. Right. See it in the King James Version translation also. Okay, so Susa is mare, M-A-R-E, which means a female horse. Ish is man, but when you add commas A and A to Ish, it gives you Isha, Isha, which means woman. Navi is prophet. Navi is prophet. Masculine singular, prophet. But when you add commas A and A to the end of Navi, you get Neviah, Neviah, which is prophetess. The ESS ending is a sign of the feminine gender in English. So you have stewardess, which is a female flight attendant. You have hostess, which is a female host. So the ESS in English is a sign of the feminine gender. Yes. We used to say conductress. We used to say conductress. So that is the sign of the feminine gender. So Nebiah, Nebiah, Nebiah is prophetess. Melech is king. But when you add commas A and A to the end of Melech, you have Malka being formed. Malka, really. Malka. And Malka means queen. So the feminine singular nouns have one special ending. Notice that. Commas A, A. Commas A, A. Commas A, A. Commas A, A. AH, 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 AH. That is the sign of the feminine singular. I mean, where? Here? Yeah, that is a doggish length. Very good. That's a doggish length. It does not double the cup. Remains one cup. Okay, it says mouth cup, mouth cup. Okay, so if you get a question such as, what is the sign of the feminine singular noun? What should you say? Commas A, A. Commas A, A. When you add that to the end of a noun in the masculine singular, it produces the feminine form of the noun. Feminine singular form of the noun.
Yes, sir. In this case, it has been accented.
Okay, let me explain the accent. Normally, in Hebrew, words are accented on the last syllable. So if I were to accent your name in Hebrew, let's say you are a fellow Israelite, and I pronounce your name, I will be emphasizing all the last syllables of your name. Maxine, Sherwood, because in Hebrew, most words have their accent on the last syllable. It happens so regularly that in Hebrew grammar, when we're studying Hebrew, they do not have any sign or symbol to indicate the accent on the last syllable, because it is taken for granted. You see a word that has no symbol of an accent over it, you know that the last syllable has the accent. Now they indicate that in the Hebrew Bible itself, they have a symbol over the last syllable. But to make it simple for me and you who are learning Hebrew, they leave the symbol out. And only when the accent comes on another syllable than the last one, they will put an arrowhead to represent an accent. If it has no accent mark, no symbol, no symbola, you know that the accent is going to come on the very last syllable. Maxine, Sherwood, Ito, Williamson, Richard, Royer, or Richard, Roy. It's just one syllable. Everything is Roy. It's Enrico, Simpson, Narcisse, Jervis, Robin, Isher. The accent comes on the last syllable. Okay. So that's why it says, that is why it says accented, commas, A, because it is expected that the accent is going to come on the last syllable. It is expected that the accent is going to come on the sa, the sha, the ah, and the ka, the last syllable. Any further question on this? So if you're asked feminine singular noun, you must know this so well that Enrico is able to write Susa on his paper and put down the meaning. It means mare or female horse. Or if you want to give the example of Isha, you're able to write it down on your paper and to put the meaning beside it, woman. Both of them illustrate the commas a ending, which is the sign of the feminine singular noun. So what is the sign of the feminine singular noun? Commas a. Yes, Enrico, what is the sign of the feminine singular noun? It ends in what? Commas a. Northeast, what is the sign of the feminine singular noun? Or commas a. Good. And Orion, what is the sign of the feminine singular noun? Or commas a. Or it is our H in English, but we say a in the Hebrew. Commas a. Commas a. Any other question? Any other question or comment? So make sure you know it well enough that you're able to write the Hebrew. I must say, who was the one speaking? Robin was speaking the other day. You must have impressed Brother York when you used in your lesson a reference to Aleph Bet Gimel. Okay, 3 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Maybe he was unaware of it, but he heard 3 letters of the alphabet. Aleph Bet Gimel. Okay, make sure you know this well enough to give some examples of the feminine singular noun. Okay? Isha. Okay, now we move on to the adjective. The masculine singular adjective does not have one special ending. Now that sounds familiar. Sounds as if I heard it just a few minutes ago when I was looking at the masculine singular nouns. Just a repetition. The masculine singular adjective does not have one special ending, but each one has their own unique ending. Make sure you're able to give examples of this. 2 examples. Bear in mind 2. Give 2 examples. Any 2. For example, tov, which means good, or ra, which means evil. Gathol, which means great, or ram, which means high. Notice tov ends in Beth. Ra ends in ayin. The thol ends in lamed. And ram ends in mem. They don't end in the same letter or letters. They have different endings. Each has its own unique ending. Be able to know this well so that you can give two examples. Two examples, any two, to know them well enough. Make sure you also eat nutritious food, because when you study Hebrew, you're going to need some energy from your brain. Try not to study Hebrew on an empty stomach. Make sure you have nutritious food and drink. Okay? That might sound like a joke, but it's a serious thing.
Special ingredients.
Special ingredients. Well, make sure it is a well-balanced diet. Okay? So that your brain can have the nourishment it needs to think. You know what happens when you study on an empty stomach? You start to get a headache because your brain has to work harder. It's less difficult for the brain to work and learn the same information when it has a lot of power, when it has a lot of energy to make it work. But when it has little power, you're going to struggle harder. And it's going to take you longer to learn. So you need to make sure you eat a well-balanced diet.
Rested.
Oh, you need rest. Thank you very much. You need rest. Look, when I was in high school, I waited until the night before a test to start studying for a test. And I honestly thought, as a young person, as a boy, a teenage boy, that I could really do it. I shocked myself again and again when I either failed the test or I got a low mark for the test. And I learned a lesson I should have known before I took the test. Never wait until the night before to start studying for a test. Give yourself some time, especially something like this, which is so foreign. It's foreign to French, it's foreign to English, it's foreign to Spanish. It's so different. You need more time, okay? And you need time to rest. I stayed up all night to study for my test. And my brain could hardly function the next day. And I was disappointed with the results. Disappointed. If I could do life over again, I would start studying from day one, even before the teacher tells me about the tests. So I would really know the information, not just for the test, but for the rest of my life. If you know information just for a test and then you forget it, how is it going to help you later on? You have to really understand the information. Okay, any questions on this? Okay, let's move on. The feminine singular adjective has one special ending, which is added to the masculine singular adjective. Sounds similar to the feminine singular noun. So, tov is the masculine singular for good. You add commas a and a to tov, and it gives you tovah. Tovah means good. And so, tovah, he shall be. This is what Tito says about his wife. Tova Isha'i. Isha'i means my wife. Tova means is good. Tova Isha'i, my wife is good. Tova, you add Hamis A to Tov and you get good, feminine gender. Ra is the masculine singular adjective for evil. But when you add Hamis A and A at the end of Ra, you get Ra'ah. The ayin is not pronounced, just like the aleph is not pronounced. Ra'ah. Ra'ah. Ra'ah is evil in the feminine form. Gathol is great. That's the masculine singular form. But when you add Hamis A and A at the end of Lamed, you get Getolah. Because you're rushing to emphasize the last syllable, which is La, the Hamis A under Gimel changes to a simple shawal that is vocal. So you just hurriedly pronounce Getolah. You don't say Gatolah. Getolah. Getolah. Great. Feminine form. Ram is a masculine singular noun for high. To get the feminine form, you add Hamis A and A at the end of Ram, giving you Ramah, which is high. Know this well enough that if you are asked for two examples, you can write the Hebrew and put the English meaning or translation beside it. Any question on the formation of the feminine singular adjective? Oh, I looked up Elohim about goddess, and in the concise Hebrew lexicon that is edited by, okay, what's that man's name again? Anyway, the concise Hebrew lexicon says that Elohim is used for God, it is used for gods, and it's used for goddess. The one standard word. The context will have to indicate whether it's masculine or feminine, whether it is one God you're referring to or more than one God. Don't change the form. They don't change it from Elohim, the same Elohim. They don't do this to Elohim. They don't add the sign of the feminine form. They just give it one standard form, Elohim. All right, so it is dealt with differently in Elohim, but not in this case here. Okay, well, that is your test. That's all your test is about. Let me just quickly go by that again. That's all the test is about. Okay, so masculine singular nouns do not have one special ending. Each has their own ending. Know these words in Hebrew so you can give them as examples. The feminine singular noun has one special ending. Hamis A, Hamis A, Hamis A, Hamis A. Be able to give some examples. At least two examples. At least two. The masculine singular adjective does not have one special ending, but each one has their own ending. Be able to give at least two examples. The feminine singular adjective has one special ending, which is added to the masculine singular adjective. Hamis A, Hamis A, Hamis A, Hamis A. Be able to give at least two examples. And if you do that, then you will be champion. You will be the champion of the boxing that is scheduled for next week, Thursday. So I'm looking for all of you to be champions. Get 100%. And I have deliberately given you a smaller section of Hebrew to prepare for, so you will be better able to remember than a long lesson. Okay, so I know you'll be able to do well. Just budget your time wisely. You let different subjects that you're taking now, with all the different assignments that you are required to hand in, pile up one on top of the other, then you're going to wonder, how am I going to get to study Hebrew? What I did in later years, when I learned from my high school mistakes, as soon as I got an assignment, I tried to get it out of the way as quickly as possible. So I know that is finished. I get another one, I get it out of the way. Another one, I get it out of the way. So that when I need the time, I have the time to concentrate on something that might be hard for me to understand. But don't let it pile up. If you let it pile up, you'll wonder, how can I make it? How can I manage? I can't cope with all the stress. Get it out of the way as quickly as possible. Do a good work on each of them, but get it out of the way as quickly as possible. Because I don't like homework. That's the way I have been in school. I don't like homework. I'm glad when I don't get homework. Because that is the way a lot of people feel, they tend to put off doing their work for a later time. But eventually you have to do it anyway. You might as well get it over and done with. Get it out of the way as quickly as possible. That's how you can cope. Have a timetable. I have a timetable. I write it down in this book here. What I'm supposed to do today, I wrote it down already. And I look to see if I am doing it. And when I do it, I tick it. And then I go on to something else. In that way, I make sure that what I need to get done is done. And so I know from the beginning, when I rise up in the morning, what I'm going to do at 9 o'clock, what I'm going to do at 9:30, try to get it done. Okay? And so I think you're ready now for the 100%. So let me just tell you already, all of you have 100% for this Hebrew test. I'm saying that in faith. I'm saying things that are not as though they are. If you study this little bit of information, there is no reason why you shouldn't all get 100%. Okay, well, I'm going to let you off now. It's 22 after 12, and you're due a 10-minute break. I've taken 2 minutes out of it already. So we are dismissed for lunch. And viewers on the internet, thank you for joining us. Our next class is for the third-year students, Introduction to Biblical Hermeneutics, the Science of Interpreting the Bible. Thank you for joining us on Introduction to Biblical Hebrew. God bless you all. And for those of you who will not be taking the class in the afternoon, have a great weekend.
Right?